You can threaten me all you want, but the moment you made my son cry, you crossed a line. I was running late that morning. I'd promised my son Max I'd drive him to the bus stop. No more long walks alone. As we pulled up to the corner, my heart dropped. There he was, my 12-year-old, shoulders hunched, clutching his backpack like a shield. Looming over him was a woman in a sharp pantsuit, finger jabbing inches from his face. Even from 50 feet away, I saw it. Max's wide, terrified eyes. "I've never seen you here before," the woman snapped, her voice slicing through the quiet morning. "This is a private neighborhood bus stop. Show me proof of residence now or I'm calling security." Other parents and kids stood nearby, uncomfortable, watching, but no one stepped in. I eased my unmarked police car to the curb, careful not to draw attention to the government plates. We'd only moved to Oak Ridge Estates 3 weeks ago, and I'd kept my role under wraps. Being the police chief in a small town like Ridgemont meant people acted differently around you. I just wanted Max to have a normal childhood, especially after losing his mom 2 years ago. I stepped out just as the woman's voice hit a shrill pitch. "Do you understand what trespassing means, young man? I'm the HOA president. I have every right to question strangers in our community." Max's reply was barely a whisper. "I live here. My dad and I moved to Maple Drive." The woman, who I'd soon learn was Karen Whitfield, the infamous head of the HOA's Community Standards Committee, let out a loud scoff. That's exactly what someone lying would say. "Maple Drive? Really? What house number? Who owned it before? Why haven't I seen your parents at any meetings?" I approached slowly, calm, controlled, the way 2 decades in law enforcement had trained me. "Excuse me, is there a problem here?" Karen turned toward me with a glare full of cold, smug superiority. She looked to be in her late 40s. Expensive blonde bob, designer outfit, the kind that practically screamed, "I'd like to speak to the manager." A gold HOA president pin sparkled proudly on her lapel. "I'm handling a situation here," she said curtly, barely glancing at me. "This child claims he lives in our neighborhood, but I've never seen him before. I know everyone who belongs here. We've had problems with outsiders using our private amenities." Max turned to me, relief washing over his face. "Dad." That one word made Karen freeze. Her eyebrows shot up. She turned from Max to me, recalibrating instantly. But she wasn't retreating. "Oh, you're his father." She folded her arms, still firm. "Well, as I was explaining, as president of the Homeowners Association, it's my duty to ensure the safety of our neighborhood. We have clear protocols about who's allowed at the bus stop. I'll need to see your community ID card." Now, the other parents were watching. Some uneasy, others looking like they'd seen this act before. One mother met my eyes and offered a quiet, sympathetic look. "Ma'am," I said, keeping my tone measured. "My son and I moved into 478 Maple Drive 3 weeks ago, the Harrison place. We're registered residents, and Max has every right to be here at this stop." Karen crossed her arms tighter. Her bright red fingernails tapped rhythmically against her designer handbag. "Well, everyone knows the bylaws require new residents to check in with the HOA office and get proper ID before using community amenities. And yes, the bus stop is included," she added with a sugar-sweet smile that never reached her eyes. "I don't make the rules, I just enforce them." I placed a steady hand on Max's shoulder. "Go wait in the car for a minute, buddy. The bus would be arriving soon, but this needed to be handled first." Once Max was safely in the car, I turned back to Karen. This wasn't our first run-in with the HOA. In the short time we'd lived here, I'd already received warnings. Our mailbox was 2 inches too low. Our window trim was the wrong shade of beige, and apparently, leaving a recycling bin visible for more than 4 hours after pickup was grounds for formal complaint. "Ms. Whitfield, is it?" I asked, though I already knew exactly who she was. The name stamped all over the welcome packet she hand-delivered, along with a neatly stapled 3-page list of violations labeled "Urgent." That's right, she said, chest lifting slightly. Karen Whitfield, HOA president, 7 consecutive terms. Pride radiated off her like heat. Well, Ms. Whitfield, I replied, keeping my voice calm, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. Interrogating a minor without a parent present crosses some serious boundaries, both legal and ethical. My son was visibly distressed by your behavior. Karen let out a sharp, dismissive huff. I have authority from the HOA board to question anyone on community property. It's for everyone's safety. We've had issues with vandalism lately, and the board unanimously voted to tighten security. If your son had proper ID, none of this would have happened. There was something in her smug tone, that blind confidence in her authority, that told me it was time to end the neighborly niceties. I reached into my jacket and pulled out my badge. I held it low, out of view, of the children, but high enough for Karen to see every detail. Chief Thomas Reynolds, Ridgemont Police Department, I said. And what I just witnessed was you harassing my 12-year-old son while he waited for his school bus. Not only a violation of HOA policy, but potentially considered intimidation of a minor under state law. The change in Karen's face was instant and almost laughable. The confident flush drained to pale shock. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again before she finally stammered, Chief, I had no idea you were... This is just a misunderstanding, she stammered, her voice suddenly pitched a full octave higher. I was simply doing my duty as HOA president to ensure community safety. If someone had just told me who you were, that's exactly the problem, Ms. Whitfield, I said, cutting her off calmly, my tone steady and firm. You shouldn't have to know I'm the police chief to treat a child with basic decency. Any child deserves better than to be interrogated and accused of trespassing, especially when they're just trying to get to school. In the distance, I saw the school bus approaching. I motioned for Max to come back. Karen stood frozen, struggling to recover, her previous confidence unraveling beneath the watchful stares of parents who were no longer pretending to look away. I'll be filing an official report regarding this incident, I continued. Not as a resident, but as a law enforcement officer. This community needs to take a serious look at how it's treating minors. And I'd also like to review the exact HOA bylaw that supposedly gives you authority to interrogate children without a parent present. I imagine your board's legal counsel will have some thoughts about that. A shift in the crowd. One mother, who'd been quietly observing, stepped forward. She did the same thing to my daughter last month, she said, accused her of bringing in a friend from outside the neighborhood, threatened to fine us. We were scared to say anything because Karen runs the violations committee. Another parent nodded grimly. She banned my landscaping crew because their truck sat in my driveway too long. Cost me an extra $1,000 just to find a replacement. Karen's face went from pale to deep crimson. But this time, it wasn't authority fueling her expression. It was humiliation. This is ridiculous, she snapped. I've devoted 8 years of my life to protecting this community, to preserving property values. You have no idea what would happen here if we didn't enforce proper standards. The bus pulled up to the corner, brakes hissing as it came to a stop. I gave Max a quick hug. Have a good day at school, buddy. Don't worry about any of this. He nodded, and with one last glance at Karen, climbed aboard. Once the children had all boarded, I turned back to her. She stood stiffly now, clutching her designer handbag like it was a shield. Ms. Whitfield, I said evenly, I expect to see you at the police station this afternoon to give a formal statement about your practice of questioning minors. Acquaintance. PM works well. Her mouth parted, but I kept going. And I'll be attending the next HOA meeting to discuss community security protocols that don't involve intimidating children. Karen's lips flattened into a thin, trembling line. You can't seriously think this warrants police involvement. I was doing my job. Harassment isn't a job, I replied, and targeting children crosses a line that has nothing to do with HOA regulations. In fact, your actions this morning may qualify as intimidation, harassment, and impersonating a security official, all of which carry serious consequences. A $5,000 fine, possibly jail time. That's the law in this state. Once again, the color drained from Karen's face, but this time she didn't even try to defend herself. She stood there in silence. The crowd of parents behind us no longer looked away. Some watched with quiet vindication, their expressions saying what words didn't have to. It was clear. Karen's reign over this neighborhood hadn't just impacted us. 1 week later, a community-wide email went out. Karen Whitfield had, regretfully, stepped down as HOA president and committee chair, following a wave of formal complaints. The email also noted that she'd been fined $2,000 for harassment and ordered to complete 40 hours of community service. The HOA board issued a public apology, especially to families with children, and promised a full review of all community guidelines. The next morning, I saw Karen step out of her Mercedes and hurry into her house without meeting anyone's gaze. And as I watched from my porch, I didn't feel satisfaction, just relief. Relief that now our neighborhood kids, including my son, could finally wait for the school bus in peace.